Gang, man, and we kick off this scarathon with Mr. Ballin, man. Now let's go.
I go where I want and I do what I want. My belt match the kicks. Don't you go Ballin.
Gang, man, and start this Halloween countdown. We gotta do it right, man, by going with Mr. Ballin and his Halloween scarathon, part 8. This one is Old Man Scares Reddit with a shocking confession. Now let's get straight into it, man. Let's go.
2019, a 70-year-old man posted a lengthy confession to Reddit that quickly went viral. And if you make it to the end of today's video, you'll see why. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious,
which we are, that's why we're here,
then you've come to the right channel, because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So
wow.
if that's of interest to you, please deliver.
Oh, also, this is my first time actually watching him on YouTube. I was watching his shorts and I was watching him on TikTok. So actually, this is the first time. So you watching it with me for the first time. So let's go.
A strange, dark, or mysterious story to the like button about it. But all notifications, so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
I was like, how many times are we doing it? Let's go. Here we go. Ooh. Ooh.
On the advice of his longtime therapist, a 70-year-old man named Art began writing about what happened to him and his family 30 years earlier in 1989. His therapist only knew Art had lost a child and felt very guilty about it. But the conditions under which the child was lost was always very gray, even though Art had been his patient for years and the therapist had repeatedly tried to get more information. You know, was this a child that was lost in pregnancy? Was it a child that was born and died or ran away? Those details never emerged, and every time the therapist tried to dig in, Art would back off, close up, and he would not talk about it. And so finally, his therapist said, Art, you just need to find a way to talk about this stuff. If you're not going to talk about it
Well, first off, I'm going to say shout out to him for even going to get some mental health, help, you know what I'm saying? But I think it was just a guilty conscience already. You can already tell, guilty conscience. Let me know in the comments what y'all think.
With me, then perhaps you should write it all down in a private journal. It'll be a very cathartic experience, and it might help you get over that guilt you're feeling. So Art reluctantly agrees. He goes home, he gets out a piece of paper, and he begins writing all the details of everything that happened leading up to that day in 1989 and what actually happened on that day in 1989. Wow. And when he was done and he had a chance to look at what he had written, he didn't feel better. He felt worse. He felt more guilty. But that's because
I just want to know, how many pages was that? Because that looked like a lot of pages. I know he just did like a little lower third or whatever, but that looked like a lot of pages, though.
Because Art had a secret that the therapist didn't know about.
Obviously.
And now that it was out on paper, Art suddenly felt like, you know what? Before I die, I have to tell the world what me and my wife did. So in 2019, he took all those notes that he had written down.
You and your wife, bro.
Down about what had happened.
Like, I don't know, just my personal opinion, it's always bad, like, when something happens to a child, like, it's always bad, whoever does it, but I'm saying, like, to me, it always just seems like a little worse when, like, a mother does it, like a woman, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, like, don't you have the maternal instincts? Like, that's crazy. But let's go.
Posted it to Reddit. This is his confession.
Posted to Reddit. Shout out Reddit. Lost cause.
Art's son was very, very troubled. Art would say, if you've seen the movie, We Need to Talk About Kevin, where a couple's son turns out to be a total psychopath, Art says that's a pretty good representation of what home life was like with our son. From the day Art's son was born in 1971, it was like...
Let me know if you saw that movie, because I saw that movie. I just got like a mental flashback, and I was like, wow, thank God I don't have no children like that. Like,
something was off about him. Art and his wife Lisa had planned this pregnancy, and they were ecstatic when their baby boy was welcomed to the world.
And they had a Damien. Maybe they had maybe that's what happened. You know what I'm saying? Crazy.
They showered him with affection and love and did everything they possibly could to give him a warm and loving environment. But no matter
they had a Damien.
It just seemed like he was always miserable. Their son cried constantly for the first 13 months of his life.
13 months?
And Lisa understood.
13 months. At first I thought he said 13 days. I'm like, well, yeah, baby. 13 months. That is a year and a month. You cried. Wow.
That when you bring a baby home, there's a good chance they're going to cry.
Wow.
But his crying was so constant and he could not be calmed down, but they grew concerned that this was more than just a colicky baby, that there could be some underlying issue.
Yeah.
And so they brought their son to doctors and specialists, and they tried every treatment under the sun. They changed his diet, they changed his room, they sang him songs, they changed everything they could, but it never.
Hey, shout out Mr. Ballin for having the crying effect in the background still while he's talking. That really just puts it more like, you know what I mean, visual for you. Let me know in the comments if you just kept hearing that. You're like, dang, that baby really is annoying. Imagine 13 months of that.
And so 13 months of grinding, grating, no sleep. Finally, in the 14th month of his life, he seemed to get over the incessant crying stage.
Oh, 14.
And Art and Lisa were so relieved. It seemed like finally they could just be loving parents and not be so frustrated with their child all the time. But it seemed like now that he wasn't crying, he still was just totally unhappy. His body language and everything about him said, "I'm not happy."
He was just,
Always.
meh.
Art said that he never.
Baby was just, meh. Every time you see her, like, good morning, meh. No, but for real, that's like crazy though. That just, you had a problem from birth. Like, that's Damien. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. That's weird. Like, from birth, it wasn't like he hit his head. Like, he came out the womb crazy. Like,
Never saw his
or
son
not crazy.
ever have a genuine, joyous smile. The only time he saw something resembling a smile was when his son would grin after causing someone pain or breaking a rule or in some way being bad. And then once his son started walking, all he wanted to do was just destroy everything in front of him. But again, Art and Lisa, they realized that this is all pretty typical child behavior.
I'm sorry. No, it's not. I'm sorry. No, it's not. And that's what's part of that part of the world where they see all the clear signs and they just be like, nah, he's gonna grow out of it. And in my family's house, trust me, we would have been knocked that off month 2, month 1, week 1, hour 2. Like very like no.
Albeit maybe on the more extreme end of bad behavior, but it's still in the realm of normal child. And they're thinking that they are the reason this is happening. And so they're not blaming their son at this point. They're still doing everything they can to take care of him and love him to the best of their.
Okay, I take that back. Okay, that's true though, because you know what I'm saying. Like you just brought him home. You're thinking it maybe is you. Like I said, he's a new human being, so that makes sense. Okay. I'll get off you a little bit.
When their son was about 2 years old, he learned how to take off his diaper. And he began sneaking around the house and emptying the contents of his diaper into corners of the house underneath.
Nope, I was right. Big Mama would have had that taken care of in 30 seconds, no commercials. I'm sorry. No.
Carpet, grinding it into the carpet, smearing it on the walls. But again, Art and Lisa are looking inward and saying, our child is only 2 years old. It can't be his fault he's acting this way. It's our fault for not finding a way to correct this behavior. But Art and Lisa,
like my Big Mama used to say, Grandma, you ever try a belt? You ever think about just a shoe, whatever's near you, make it near him? I noticed that they really ain't say nothing about no whooping. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess we're not supposed to do that, but kids aren't supposed to be doing this.
Started to drift away from that opinion when their son got a little bit older, got potty trained, and wasn't using diapers anymore, and still was going around the house,
Hell
no, going to the bathroom all over the house, making a mess at every possible.
I'm sorry, as a parent myself, like, at what age? I'm sorry, I'm trying in my head. I'm like, as a parent myself, I'm like, I would have immediately stopped blaming myself because I know who I am as a person. I'm like, no, it's you. You're messing up. That's your job as a parent to know that, hey, I'm doing right, you're doing wrong. Like, that's why you're the parent. Like, that's crazy. They just thought it was them. Like, what?
Possible chance he could, and not just when he was 4, 5, 6 years old. All the way
4,
up
5,
until
6.
15 years old, he was doing this, and he stopped doing it and ran.
I'm sorry, but if you're 15, we can go toes. Sorry, we're gonna throw these hands. We're gonna throw these hands, bro. 15, you doing it? We throwing these hands, bro. Sorry. Sorry, YouTube.
Only going into his parents' bedroom
Throwing his hands.
every chance he got, opening up the sheets, going inside, going to the bathroom, shutting it back up, and leaving. It got to the point where Art and Lisa literally could not stop their son from doing this. He was absolutely determined to do this. So anytime they were away, he would even sneak in the windows to do this. I mean, he was totally hell-bent on going to the bathroom.
Okay, something wrong with this kid. Like, I was making jokes and everything, like, we gonna do this. And like, nah, but seriously, something's wrong with this kid. Like, they should have took further drastic steps because what they're doing right now, they don't have the fortitude to try to discipline them themselves. That's just fine. So, but they should have brought in some outside assistance, like because this is just imagine just being emotionally held hostage at your house like this by your child. That's crazy.
in their bed. And so they had to start putting locks on the windows and the doors of their bedrooms. But when they had finally secured that
I ain't
room
doing
to
that.
where he really couldn't get in anymore,
I'm putting you
he
out.
began going to the bathroom right outside their door and in the other beds in the house. And so they began investing in locks on all of the doors. They even replaced the doors.
He said they began investing in locks. Yeah, this definitely wasn't one of our families. Yeah, we would have been investing in some other stuff.
Themselves
Steel
because
toes,
they were too flimsy, and they thought
extension
there's a
cords,
good chance he might kick these doors in to try to
hangers.
get them open. So they put these big.
He gonna kick the door in. They are terrified of this kid. They're scared that he's gonna kick the door in. They are terrified of this kid. That's crazy.
All through their house and put these big locks with key locks all over the house to keep their son from going in and going to the bathroom all over their bed sheets. As their
like I said, all jokes aside, man, I ain't gonna hold you, but that's gotta be traumatizing for every individual in this situation. Like, that's crazy. Like, we're gonna let him get to it though.
Son grew older, he became more and more unmanageable, well beyond just going to the bathroom in different places. He became violent. He would fight and kick and scratch and spit on anybody that came near him. He was like a wild animal. Before he was 9 years old, he got kicked out of school 2 separate times. When they let him back in a third time, he apparently did something that was so bad that they effectively expelled him. A 9-year-old is getting expelled from school.
Wow.
So they had to enroll him at this other special school
Alternative.
that would accept him with his history. But part of the deal with this school is you don't have any interaction with other students. He was considered too dangerous to be around other kids.
Okay.
So he was totally isolated at school, and it ultimately made him a lot worse. Once he was enrolled in this school, he became really violent at home. He would come home from school and he would go right to the kitchen and get a knife out, and he would start threatening his parents to the
what? I'm sorry, but as people, as parents, come on now. Like, okay, the kid is crazy. I'll give you that. Like, I'll give you that. He's not crazy, but you know what I'm saying? Something's wrong with him. He's got some mental issues. Like, you know what I'm saying? Something's wrong with him, obviously. But I learned a long time ago, I heard a saying that says, nobody can walk over you unless you lay down first. Like, they never once set no clear-cut boundaries and said, hey, we don't do that here. You were born in this house. Like, you know what I mean? It's weird. I don't know.
The point where they had to lock all the drawers
No, you
in the
didn't.
kitchen. Once all of the knives were under lock and key in Art's house, his son began stealing knives from the neighbor's house, smuggling them back into the house, and at night he would pull them out and try to stab Art. And on 2 different occasions, he was successful, and Art still has scars on his leg from it. And Art's son was not just attacking his parents. He was also turning on local animals that were helpless.
Hey, that's what they say in the FBI books. The serial killers. Man, this is a supervillain origin story. You don't see this? What? This ain't. Let me know in the comments. What? Now he's killing the kids. Like, you ain't seen a season 1 of Dexter. You ain't seen, like, what? These are the signs right here.
Was running around the area by just stabbing it in the eye one day.
Oh no!
He went after one of the stray cats and he lit its tail on fire. And honestly, Art doesn't even know the other damages he had done to other animals or even other people. Even though Art and Lisa massively resented their son for how badly he treated them and how difficult he was making their lives,
you love him.
Recognized that this was a child that needed help.
Yeah.
So they tried everything they could to help him by enrolling him in that special school that ultimately was isolating, but it was an attempt to try to help him, or bringing him to different therapists and psychologists and doctors, putting him on different medications and bringing him to meditation consultations.
But did they try the belt though? I know he ain't never mentioned that belt though, that BELTED, man.
I mean, you name it. They tried everything they could to try to help this kid.
I don't know if it was everything.
He only got angrier and angrier and got bigger and stronger. And
he got bigger and stronger too.
And eventually, Art and Lisa are
the hate was making him stronger. Like, that's crazy. And he's getting bigger because you're not, man, that's a metaphor for life right there, actually. The more you just don't knock a problem out, the more it gets bigger. That's crazy. That's a metaphor for life.
Like, what do we do about this?
What do we do about it?
Over the following years is Art and Lisa
you the parents
prisoners of their own home. every time their son was around, they felt unsafe around him. He was such a wild card, and he had these crazy, angry outbursts, and he was clearly prone to extreme violence.
Yeah.
And so they began using those heavy doors and locks to lock themselves away from their son. It was the only way they felt safe. And so, with that in
Wow.
mind, fast forward to 1988 when Art's son is now 16 years old, and Art and Lisa find out they're pregnant again. It was a surprise, and they were not happy about it. In fact, because of how badly they
For sure. Dang, for sure. You're like, whoa, like, nah, we Gucci. We nah for sure. Oh man, that's crazy. They don't even know that's an anomaly. They don't even know. They think it might be just them. Like they like, nah, man, that's crazy.
That another child was going to be just as bad.
That's the scariest part of this whole. Like they gonna have another one. That's the scariest part of this whole thing.
And they couldn't possibly go through this again. And so they decided that they weren't going to terminate. But if they noticed early on this child was a huge problem child, as horrible as they felt about it, they knew they would give it up for adoption. They simply couldn't do this again. This time they had a daughter, and she was normal. She was nothing like their son. She didn't come home and cry constantly.
Hey, why he got a picture of Rick from Walking Dead and his daughter? You cold for that, Mr. Ballin.
She smiled and laughed, and after a few months, she was sleeping through the night, and she was hitting her milestones, and she just seemed happy, and she was easy. And it was around this time that Art and Lisa began to realize just how bad their son was.
Yeah.
Seeing how wonderful their daughter was just amplified all of their son's atrocious behavior over the first.
Isn't that crazy too? They're raising a baby girl in that environment too. Like I said, that's very traumatizing. Now they just brought another life into that scenario. That's crazy.
16 years of his life. And so Art and Lisa really began to look at their son as more of a lost cause. And they were less invested in going through the motions to try to find some way to help him when they knew it wasn't going to work. It had never worked. And he's only a couple years.
I ain't gonna lie, they ain't tried that other thing I was talking about, but the give up though, I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you would do if you were in that situation.
Years away from being 18, and he can go out on his own and figure it out for himself. And now, since they didn't
figure it out for himself. And that's what's wrong with society today. I didn't understand this. I didn't think this episode was going to turn into one of this, like a talk like this. But that's what's wrong. They gonna let him be crazy as heck at home, all crazy, and like, you know what? When he's 18, he's not our problem. You know whose problem he is? He's our problem. That's cold. That's how people think. That's crazy.
Much about him. Suddenly, his behavior was intolerable, and anytime he acted up, they would never lay a hand on him, but they were not afraid to tell him to basically get the F out of here. We are not putting up with this.
Yeah, we got a good baby now. We don't need you.
Art and Lisa would have these horrific screaming matches with their son until their son would basically run away in a rage and then come back hours later or even a couple days later. And Art said he began to look forward to fighting with his son because every time they fought, it meant his son would be gone for a little while afterwards, and there would be a little bit of peace and calm inside the house. But at the same time, Art and Lisa were concerned one of these days he's going to come back in after one of these fights
and try to kill us.
So it went on like this for about a year until a rainy day in 1989 when their son was almost 18 and their daughter was almost 1 year old.
Now, that's crazy. He's not even 18 yet, so I see why they feel like, you know what I'm saying, they want him just to hurry up and leave, but that's just not right, man. Like, you're supposed to take care of this, like, and then they want to unleash him on the world.
A single-story bungalow, and their daughter's room was against a sidewall where there was a window leading to the outside. That morning, Art and Lisa had got it.
That is nowhere near safe. This family is not thinking. Maybe something genetically wrong with them, like, because they're not making no smart moves. Let me know in the comments if you would have made any of these moves. Yeah, we just left the crib by the window.
Into one of the worst screaming matches with their son they had ever had.
Yeah.
And he left in a rage, and they slammed and locked the door behind him. After a couple of hours, their son is still gone, and they don't expect to see him anytime soon. And their daughter is starting to get fussy. She seems tired, and so they walk into her bedroom. They put her in her crib for a nap. And then Art and Lisa leave her room, shut the door behind them, and go sit down in the kitchen. A couple minutes later, they hear their daughter screaming at the top of her lungs. And Art and Lisa immediately recognize this is not a...
We know what this is. I have never seen this before, but we know what this is. crib by the window. We saw the foreshadowing.
ordinary cry. This sounds like something is terribly wrong. They get up and sprint down the hall to a room and they try the door handle, but it's locked. They run back out to the kitchen, they get the keys, they go back, they're
Man,
fumbling with the keys, they finally open it up, and there in the back of the room, standing next to the crib, is their son. He's holding a knife, and he's poking it into her face. And Art said he looked at his daughter and he could see blood on her stomach and blood on her arm, and she's screaming. And so he thinks to himself, thank God she's still alive. And instinctively, Art starts running to try to put himself between his son and his daughter. But before he could even get there, his wife had moved much faster.
shout out to moms, you know what I'm saying? Because as a dad, like, you know what I'm saying, we're going to survey the area, but moms are like, baby! And they out there, like, you feel me? Shout out moms. Shout out moms. The one thing you did so far I've heard correctly. Thank you.
She charged over and smashes her son's hand. The knife falls to the ground. She pushes him as hard as she possibly can. And he goes slamming into the wall.
Ew, mom.
Art immediately reaches into the crib, picks his daughter up, and runs to the other side of the room. And he kind of looks.
Once again, what's up with the Walking Dead references? Is it the Halloween thing? Let me know in the comments if you know. Is it an egg I missed?
Her over. She's crying. She's in pain. She's scared. But he can see the cuts on her are superficial. He turns back around and he can see his wife is standing there with her fist balled, standing in front of her son. Her son stands up and he's looking at her, no emotion on his face. Art would even say that it was like he was looking at an alien. This person wasn't human. How could they do this to their own sister, to a baby? And he stared at him, and then he noticed his wife was moving towards her son like she was going to attack him. And this is where Art says he knew he was supposed to go over there and stop whatever was about to happen. But he didn't. And this is the part of
when a woman's fed up. How that song go? I don't know how it go. But yeah, I think I know. And it was mom who put him down. Oh no. I think let me know in the comments. I haven't seen this before, but I think it's going bad now because father's got the baby. That's why I keep showing the Rick metaphors because
the story where Art reveals his wife, she's this amazing boxer, and he knew that she could beat the living crap out of just about anybody.
That's what makes this even triple worse, 10 times, quadruple times. Are you serious? So you telling me you knew for a fact you could have been gave him the beats, and you let this rock out? Wow.
Son is so stunned by how quickly this has happened that he's not doing anything. He's not positioning himself to fight back or to even preemptively attack his mother. He's just kind of standing there looking at his mother with no expression on his face. And that's when Art's wife winds up and blasts him across the face, knocking his head back. And Art said immediately he could tell his nose was broken. Blood squirts all over his face and he falls to the ground.
That's your little sister, bro.
At this moment, neither Lisa nor Art had ever laid a hand on their son. Even when he stabbed Art twice in the legs, they never physically struck their son. But this was different. Their son had crossed the line.
Yeah.
And never come back. And so
see what I'm saying? See, look, check it out, right? See, look, she hit him that one time after he stabbed the baby. He got some act right, I guarantee you. Imagine if she would have just not even punched him back then. He was a kid, a little kid back. But imagine if she would have just tapped that tushy one time back then. It wouldn't even be this story.
Even though Art knew if he doesn't step in, his wife is going to beat their son to death. Even though he knew that was going to happen, he remembers thinking, good. He turns around and he leaves the room with his daughter. As Art cleans up his daughter and puts band-aids on each of the cuts that were inflicted on her, he hears in the other room his son is yelling and screaming at their mother, saying, I'm going to kill you. And she is just ruthlessly punching, kicking, and smashing him. Is not slowing down at all. And Art remembers by the time he picked his daughter back up, after putting all her band-aids on and she'd kind of calmed down, he still heard his wife punching, kicking, and smashing their son.
She gave him the beats. No, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. I feel like, me personally, they did what they had to do in that situation after what transpired, but I felt like all this could have been easily prevented.
Who's now unconscious. Again, Art knows if I don't go in there now, my unconscious son is getting his head kicked in by his mother. If I don't go in there now, he's gonna die for sure. But Art wants that to happen, so he doesn't go in there. Instead, he just rocks his daughter until she falls asleep.
Another Rick reference.
By the time she's snoring in his arms, His wife is still punching, kicking, and smashing their son, who hasn't made a sound in a long time.
That's wow. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. That's a long time to be.
Art just sits down at the kitchen table, hoists his daughter onto his shoulder, and just listens for his wife to finish what she's doing. Finally, it does go quiet in there, and his wife emerges from the room, and she's covered in.
You remember the old black woman? I know it's not the right time for a joke, but remember the old reference they used to always say, like, "I'll beat you till I get tired, and then beat you some more." That's what happened.
Blood. Her hands are swollen and red, and her chest is heaving like she's been running a race. She comes into the kitchen and sits down at the table next to Art and looks at him, and he looks back at her, and he just says, "Is he dead?" She says, "I hope so." And he just goes, "Yeah, me too." Art and Lisa sat at the kitchen table for a long time. There was no sound
Wow.
from the room where their son was.
Can you imagine your parents saying that about you? Like, no matter what you do in life, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, your parents ain't gonna get at you like that. Like, but I guess, yeah.
And eventually Lisa starts crying and goes and takes a shower. At which point Art stands up and he goes into the bedroom where his son was, and this is when he can tell his son is actually still alive. He walks in, you can see his son still breathing, but he's covered in blood, he's got vomit on him, he's clearly wet his pants, his teeth have been knocked out, his whole face is bloodied and bruised and swollen. And he goes up to him and he thinks there's no way he's going to live through this. But Art has kind of an internal crisis because he wants him to die. He doesn't want him to live. And so that decision of should I call an ambulance or should I call police was a really difficult one to make because really neither served the purpose that he or his wife wanted. And so as he's standing there wondering what to do, he hears his.
Ooh, let me know in the comments what you guys would have did. Ooh, me personally, I'm super conflicted if I'm, you know what I'm saying, what's his name in the situation. Me personally, like I said, I wouldn't have got to this situation. But let me know what you guys would have did. This is lit.
Wife come out of the shower.
This is lit.
So he leaves the room and he confers with his wife, and they decide we're not going to call the police. We're not going to call an ambulance. We're going to do nothing. And so right then and there, they walked around their house. They gathered up a couple things, and they headed downstairs into the basement where they had an in-law suite, which basically was a little apartment that they didn't really use, but it had everything they needed. And they moved down there.
You know, it's not funny like haha. It's funny, sad. You're like, you had all the amenities of life. You had good stuff. You had the money to do this, and you let this person turn into this creature and then you did this, and then you just retreated to the basement in luxury.
And they locked.
It's weird to me. I don't know. Let me know in the comments.
Side door as well. They figured if he lived, there would be enough food to get him through a few weeks upstairs. There's water up there, bedrooms, bathrooms. He had all of that. And at some point, he would run out of food and he would have to leave. Or he would die upstairs, and in a couple weeks, they would go up and they would deal with it. Over the next week, they began to hear movement upstairs, which signaled to them he was alive, but he wasn't moving around much. It was just enough to know somebody was up there. They figured that, okay, he's probably laying down most of the time recovering. And so Art began going back to work. He would go out the side door.
I'm happy he's alive. Let me know in the comments if you wanted him. I didn't want him to die. Like, you don't have to die. Dang.
And every time he went outside, he was on the driveway. He was expecting his son to come out and attack him, but he never did. And his wife, Lisa, she stayed with their daughter 24/7, stayed in the house. And at no point did the son ever try to come downstairs and try to attack her or them at any point.
How could he come attack you guys? Like, he was half dead. Like, he's healing.
Probably because he was afraid of his mother. About 3 weeks after the attack,
that's fact. He should be
in bed in the basement, and they heard him going absolutely.
She got them hands.
They're screaming, punching walls, breaking things. They decided, you know what? Whatever he does up there, it's not worth going up there and confronting him. Let him do whatever he wants. And then the next day, it was totally quiet. And for the next couple of days, Art and Lisa would listen really intently to see if they could hear him moving around upstairs, but they couldn't. And so finally, Art and Lisa decide to go up into the main floor and see if he's up there. When they open the door, they find their entire upstairs has been absolutely wrecked. Every piece of furniture is ruined. Every window's broken. There's glass all over the place. There's brown smears all over the walls.
Wow.
Their son isn't there. And so they figured that night.
This kid's got some nerve on him, right?
And they heard him going crazy upstairs. He already knew he was going to.
I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna hold you. I'd be mad about that ass whooping too, though. For sure.
Leave. He just wanted to ruin their house before he did. Even though their son was gone, they had no idea if he was going to come back or not. And so for days and weeks and months, they lived in fear that their son was just going to show up one day and kill them. But he never did. And then 3 years after the incident, they moved and they weren't in contact with their son. They hadn't seen him. And so he had no idea where they were going. And they have no way to contact him. So that was it. They just restarted somewhere else. Fast forward
Okay.
to 2019 when
I mean, I know a lot of people who started worse. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys do too. Let me know in the comments about that if you do. Even if you don't, let me know something in the comments.
Art is making this Reddit post, and he says, I haven't seen my son since 1989, and I don't want to see him again. And Art goes on to say that while he hopes his son was able to overcome his demons and live a normal
I
life,
don't want to see him.
he said if he wasn't able to do that, if he was out there still causing pain and misery to other people, Art says he hopes that whoever was on the receiving end of that finished the job and killed him. So that's going to do it, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you found the secret, let us know in the comments what it is. And
okay, I didn't actually find the secret, but I actually did find this episode dope. Like, I only saw the shorts and, like, I mean, the TikTok stuff. So this is dope. We're gonna do this all the way from the countdown to Halloween. You know what I'm saying? Let me know some Ink T gang. I'll be back with another one again tomorrow.